and welcome to Sharpening Her Edge. I'm Dr. Susan Hughes, and this is Season 1, Episode 6 Why High Performers Stay Stuck Even When They Know Better. So, let's talk about something that doesn't make sense, at least on the surface. High performing, capable, intelligent women who know exactly what to do and still don't do it. It's not because they're lazy. It's not because they're not motivated, but because they're stuck. And if you've ever found yourself thinking, I already know this, why am I not doing this? This episode is for you. So the problem isn't knowledge, it's the loop. There's a pattern that happens, especially with high achievers. You become very good at thinking. Analyzing, planning, you can see all the angles, all the risks, all the possible outcomes. And that's a strength. That might even be your superpower. Until it becomes the thing that keeps you stuck. Because thinking creates the illusion of progress. It feels like you're moving forward because you're engaging with the problem, but you're not actually changing anything. So let's break this down. There are three main places where this loop tends to show up. The first is overthinking. Does that sound familiar? You run the same decision through your mind again and again and again, looking for the right answer, the perfect timing, the guaranteed outcome. But here's the truth. Clarity doesn't come from thinking more. It comes from deciding. Yeah, deciding. The second place this shows up is perfection. Ooh, that one stings a little bit, doesn't it? You set the bar so high that starting feels risky. Because if it's not done right, it doesn't count. So you wait. You wait until you have more time. You wait until you have more clarity. You wait until you have more certainty. And that moment never comes. The third place is what I call responsible delay. This one is sneaky because it sounds so logical. I just need to get through this week. Things are really busy right now. I'll focus on that later. And sometimes that's true. Sometimes that is true, but often it becomes a pattern. So I want to give you an example. I'm in process of planning and taking a humongous trip. And I got stuck on one part of the trip. It was the one part that was going to take a lot of research, figuring out, looking at safety precautions, making sure I had everything just right. And it bogged me down. Planning a trip, doing different countries, and then I got stuck, I got stuck on India. I really wanted to have a phenomenal experience, but let's face it, I stand out. And I wanted to make sure I had the right guide who also spoke English. I wanted to make sure that we had transportation, that we had experiences, and I overthought it. I just wanted to get past that part of the trip before I planned the next. So it took a couple weeks. I overthought, I spun, and I kept saying, I got to get through this before I can look at the next stop on our trip. And once I got through that and said, decide already, everything else fell into place. How do you travel? Often when I travel, I lived in Europe for 3 years, so it's very comfortable for me. And my goal was to get 50 countries by age 50. Having kids messed with that. Love my offspring. Oh my God, I love my kids dearly. But that really messed with my goal. I finally got my 50th country in this past year. Luxembourg. That was my 50th country. So, anyways, I digress. So, I kept putting off planning the next steps because I was so bogged down on that one. Think about the different scenarios where you're doing that. Where are your priorities getting pushed behind everything else? And over time, you lose momentum. I lost weeks of momentum in planning our trip because I got stuck on India. I wanted to make sure that I had the right guide, that I had everything all set up. With traveling, as I mentioned earlier, having lived in Europe, I was so used to, the last few summers we would fly into one country and fly out of another country, and we'd have a few weeks in between where we had absolutely nothing planned. Now, that would drive most people up the wall, but that slow travel really kind of resonated with my husband and myself. We'd just go, hey, what do you want to do tomorrow? What do you want to do today? And we'd make it happen. It's just fun traveling that way. And this trip that I'm taking now, it is not that at all. I have to plan all the hotels because we need those for the visas. So it's a different way, and I got bogged down with it. And I lost momentum. And it wasn't until I decided, hey, just get over yourself, make a decision, move forward. How many of you have been in that position where you lose momentum, not because you can't move forward, because you keep choosing not to? And that's a hard truth. No judgment, just awareness. Because once you see the pattern, you can interrupt it. How many of you see the pattern there in yourself? So let me ask you a direct question. What decision have you already made that you've not acted upon? Not the one you're still figuring out, the one you already know. The one that keeps coming back. The one you keep pushing to later. That's your next step. Not 10 steps ahead. Not a full plan, just that one. Because momentum doesn't come from thinking more. It comes from movement. And movement creates clarity, not the other way around. This is where high achievers often get tripped up. You're used to being prepared. But in this season of your life, it may require you to move forward before you're ready. I remember watching a interview with Patrick Stewart, Jean-Luc Picard, and he would always set the direction of where they would go next and say, engage. And when they interviewed him, he's like, yeah, a lot of times I didn't know where I was going, but I had to choose a direction and take that leap. He was the leader. He was the captain. Later became admiral, I think. But he knew that sometimes you just need to take that step forward, whether you are absolutely certain or not. Sometimes you just need to take a small little leap of faith. How many of you are stuck in that position where you just need to take that little leap? Can you think of a situation where that's popping up for you right now? And can you promise yourself, not me, but promise yourself that maybe it's time for you to just take a step forward, an absolutely imperfect step. So you need to sometimes decide before you have full certainty to act without having every variable figured out. And that's uncomfortable. We crave certainty. That's one of the 6 human needs. But we also crave uncertainty. But some of us are wired more for certainty. And so that uncertainty becomes terrifying, even paralyzing. So taking a look at that can really help get you unstuck. So I also want to reassure you that when you do decide to take that one tiny imperfect step forward, that's also where growth happens. Because staying in the loop can feel very safe, but it keeps you absolutely where you are. And I don't think that's where you want to stay, is it? You don't need more information. You need to trust the information you already have. And part of the philosophy of sharpening her edge is learning to trust yourself that you have the information, that you have the skills, that you have the knowledge to take that step forward. Trust yourself and take the next step already. Not perfectly, but intentionally. So if this resonated with you, please push subscribe, share with your friends, share with your colleagues, and if you're inspired to leave a review, fabulous, I'd appreciate it. And also grab the freebie in the comments. It's about amplifying and supporting other women. And thank you for joining us on Sharpening Her Edge.